All right. So let it hit 7. Okay, there it is. We'll get started. Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for joining this special Carnegie Mellon Mumbai interview with none other than Vikram Sood, the former chief of RAW, that is the Research and Analysis Wing, India's foreign intelligence agency. My name is Aashay Doshi. I'll be running the interview today, along with Anup Doshi, who will be running the Q&A, and Rekha Koita, who leads the chapter. Before we start, Vikramji, we will invite Rekha Koita to say a few words of welcome for you, as well as our very eclectic audience who's joined in today.
Thank you, Aashay. And thank you, Vikramji, for joining us today. A very warm welcome to you. We're really excited to have you here today. It's a very different topic. I think we've covered a host of different topics and spoken to a lot of amazing speakers over the course of the last 2 years since we've started the series. But I think this one is going to be totally unique. So we're really excited, and also would like to extend a very warm welcome to our audience who have joined us here, and really happy to see so many people. I know it's a Monday evening, but I guess that's what shows the kind of power of having such an exciting speaker and a good topic, great topic ahead. So let me just hand it over to you, Aashay. Thank you for all your effort in putting this together, organizing it. Thank you, Anup, for helping us out and being part of this. Over to you, Aashay.
Thank you, Rekha. And today's topic, as you mentioned, is extremely exciting, given the geopolitical spectrum that we are in today. Ukraine and Russia are at war. We have the farmer protests in India. We have the situation with oil and Sri Lanka. So it really begs the question, what is fact versus fiction? What is truth versus perception? How are these narratives built and accepted? Who is winning? And something about how do spy agencies play a role in this, as well as have a point of view on this. To address this, we have none other than Vikram Sood, who was a chief of RAW from 2001 to 2003 under Prime Minister Vajpayee at a critical time in the global spectrum. It was post 9/11. It was post the Kargil War. It was right after our nuclear test in Pokhran in 98 and the parliament attacks. So Vikramji has seen it all. He has been in the spy agency for 30 years before he retired. Currently, he serves as an advisor to ORF, that's Observer Research Foundation, a think tank based in New Delhi. And Vikramji, today I want to extend a very, very warm Sorry, can you hear me?
Yeah, I think it got disconnected for some reason.
Okay, you can hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay, sorry about that. So Vikramji, welcome to today's event. I'd like you to say a few words of welcome to our audience before we get started.
You want me to say a few words? Well, thank you, Aashay, for having me here. I know it's been months since you've been trying to fix this, and I've been very evasive, tried to wriggle out of it, but there we are here together. I always like to do these irresponsible talks, maybe. Not really. I love talking to the young because they are lively, they want to know a few things more than I know. So I promise you, I hope it will be an interesting interaction today. And shall we get started? Thank you all for joining in.
Absolutely. Thank you, Vikramji. So just to go over the format, I'll be interviewing Vikramji for 45 minutes, after which we will go into the Q&A. So people, please put your questions down in the chat box, and then we will get to it towards the last 15 minutes. So Vikramji, let's jump straight in. Before we build into narratives, your first book, which you've written, is The Unending Game, which I'm fortunate to receive a signed copy of. So that delves into the spy agencies. So something for our audience to demystify the intelligence agencies. So what are some of the truths and falsehoods that are associated with spy agencies, and what is your perspective on the wars that spy agencies fight on an ongoing basis?
Okay. I'll start off with a definition of what a spy does. Let me begin with what Comte Marange, who was the head of the French intelligence during Pompidou's time, he said that intelligence is a trade which is the work of scoundrels handled by gentlemen. So, it means he was trying to say that, the roughness of the work, after all, you deal with the kind of people who you want to convert into traitors in their country. It's not a very happy job to do. And so actually you're making people dishonorable in many ways. We call them patriots, but actually they're being dishonorable. And that is quite a job that has to be done. So that is the primary job of an intelligence operative in a foreign country.
Right.
It's different from what we do internally, because the external agencies are required to make traitors out of ordinary individuals.
Right.
The internal agency back home is there to prevent that from happening.
Correct.
So the two jobs are quite different. People sometimes say it's the same thing. It isn't. It's quite different. The techniques are different. Right. So we, in the external intelligence agencies, we do that kind of work. Now, of course, I joined the agency in 1972. That's 50 years ago, and there have been a lot of changes in the methods of operation and how you deal with, you deal more with machines than with human beings. But actually, human beings remain the core of intelligence. A machine will tell you only so much. A picture will tell you only so much. Even a document will only tell you so much. It is the expertise of the man at the desk, his knowledge, his understanding, his knowledge of the language, his knowledge of the nuance of the language, that will determine what is said and what it means. And intelligence also means that you will never get 100% intelligence. You will get 70%, 80%. If you get 80%, you're damn lucky.
Right.
And then the skill of the analyst comes in there. His knowledge of the past, his knowledge of the man there in question, or the place in question. What does he assess would be the next step, given what we've got?
Right.
So that tricky bit is the one that completes the picture, and it's not an easy job.
Right.
So, as Harold Philby said, that if you get one success out of 50, the 50 people you were trying to recruit to be on your side, if you're successful in one, then that's a pretty good rate. So can you imagine?
Yeah.
I mean, if we task a man to go and cover, let's say, a nuclear facility, so how does it begin?
Yeah, how do governments, like what techniques do they use to do that conversion? Like what?
No, if you're sending a human source, you got to find somebody who's working there.
Right.
And you got to know him. You got to find out where he lives, what he does, where he goes. So that itself takes time.
Right.
It may work. And how do you know at the end of the day he's going to be your man? You don't know that. So these are the kinds of problems you have in trying to locate your sources. You talked about myths and realities. If you read spy fiction, as I suppose some of you have, I would say John le Carré's book, George Smiley books, they are closer to reality. And Ian Fleming's James Bond is myth.
Right.
You don't, it doesn't really happen like that in real life. It's glamorized. It's attractive. It promises, it attracts recruits. So it's a very good idea to have a James Bond film.
Right.
But it's this Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy version of Le Carre or the Honorable Schoolboy or the Tailor of Panama that gives you the real flavor of the intelligence agency. So that is the difference between real life and the life on the screen.
Yep.
No,
but everyone thinks it's James Bond. Like that's the local
people normally refer to us as James Bond. I think it's a damned insult.
It's a lot more boring than that.
Yeah. So and I tell you, the fear of when you send an agent across into hostile territory.
Yep.
The fear that man has is alone in a hostile country. I think it's the greatest of all fears.
Right.
One slip by him, wrong word, a wrong question, and the other man gets suspicious. Why is he using a language which is not used here?
Right.
I mean, for instance, never happened like this. Somebody says, he's surprised and says, "Hey Ram, you're
finished.
Story's over."
And that must have changed so much.
Yeah,
with
you got the nuance right, you got the language right, you got to train him before he goes.
And how many years of training is that?
That can vary. You have to be satisfied that he's got it. He's got to be satisfied that he's got it right.
And how has this changed with technology? Like these days, information's on the go. Everything is on.
Yeah, previously, the intelligence agencies was in sort of competition with the newspapers. If you got the news before the newspaper did, then you got advanced intelligence.
Correct.
Now it's instant. Now everything is instant.
Right.
So the character of intelligence gathering has changed. We're now moving to situations where you deal with real life activity. You deal with long-term assessments.
Yeah.
We don't compete with newspapers or WhatsApp or Twitter or anything else because you just can't do it. And an intelligence agency cannot be sending off fake news or imagined news as intelligence. Then you may as well close shop and go home. Let Twitter and WhatsApp handle it themselves.
Right.
So where the cutting edge comes is the expertise of a man at the desk. The adventurousness and the initiative of the man who's procuring the intelligence.
Right.
Which then is put together with reconnaissance photographs, maybe some clandestine recording of a discussion, documents, phone conversation, email. You put all these things together. They might come in bits and pieces. Nothing will come on one page. You'll have to put it together. You have to imagine something else and then make an assessment what is going on. So that's how you can sometimes have failures of intelligence. When the United States starts downloading billions of messages every day, all kinds of messages, email, WhatsApp, telephone conversation, you've got to have a system to, let's say, call it deciphering it.
Yep.
Or separating the chaff from the grain.
Yeah.
And then if it's the languages that may be involved. It could be Arabic, it could be Russian, it could be Persian, it could be Hindi. So he's got to get that translated.
Yeah.
And if it's target or tactical intelligence, or it's intelligence related to terrorism, it's always a race against time.
And you just have to be wrong once.
Yes.
Right. Even if you're right 45, 49 times, if you're wrong the one time, that's what's going to be highlighted.
You don't pick up the clue or the sign or the signatures there, then the whole thing is lost. In fact, that's what happened in 9/11. There was information available through the agencies, but in bits and pieces. So-and-so the terrorist has come and he's gone for training. Nobody put it together.
I believe it was the Indians who had provided that intelligence. If I remember correctly, Indians had provided that intelligence in some capacity, but probably got lost in the mix.
Well, all of us do your bit. So it does happen, and you disregard intelligence. You shouldn't be disregarding, or it goes under a pile of reports, and you never see it again till it's there, or somebody suddenly wakes up and says, "We'd seen that. Where is it?" But the event is over. The WTC has come down. So that's how it works. Race against time, race against the enemy. He's not a fool. Your opponent is not a fool. He knows what you're on about, and he can play the double on you. He can feed you information, give you dummy information, mislead you. So all that it's a very exciting job.
Absolutely,
it's a challenge. It's a challenge every day, and I think it was the best job in the government of India.
Yeah, and you had it in a very, very exciting phase.
I must say that I enjoyed myself. I'm not
absolutely. But what's interesting that you said is that ultimately it comes down to the person at the desk. No matter what the machines, no matter what the technology.
You can have your algorithms, you can have your artificial intelligence, you can have whatever you do, but that man will tell you the exact, in his assessment, what next.
And governments
you can get a perfectly good-looking document, and it looks priceless, but it may be fake.
Right.
Okay, they've done a number on you, and you got this. You're going to act on this. Only the expert will tell you it's a fake or not. And that comes with years of experience working on the desk, working on, let's say, the China desk for years, working on the terrorism desk for years, working on the Pakistan, whatever. The expertise has to be immense. Right.
And is there a constant battle amongst intelligence agencies, or is there camaraderie, collaboration? Is it what the media makes out to be?
When you put human beings together, what do you expect?
A bit of both, yeah.
A bit of both. Camaraderie also, rivalry also, enmity also.
Yep.
So that happens. That's how we are.
Right.
And it's not an Indian phenomenon, it's a global phenomenon.
Sure.
They don't share reports with each other. Agencies sometimes don't do it.
Right.
They're possessive about intelligence, information and access. So it's chalta hai.
Yeah, but then I guess each country sometimes wins one battle. You pull one over the other, they pull one over you, and it goes on. It's daily.
The game of intelligence. The armed forces do exercises every now and then. Battle readiness, fatigue, or whatever. Check out new equipment. Where does the spy test his alertness? How does he do that?
Right.
He's got to be on his toes 24 hours, but you can't let him go to seed because nothing is happening for 6 months. It can happen.
Right.
No event, nothing happens. You're just sitting there and you gather dust. So there has to be a system in the organization where you are kept on your toes.
Got it.
And espionage, I'm afraid, is not just done on enemies, it's done on friends also. World War II had barely ended. And the Americans picked up all the Nazi generals who were spying for Hitler on the East Front. And the US knew that the next target is going to be USSR. So all the experts were airlifted from Germany in Eisenhower's deputy chief's aircraft and taken to Washington or wherever.
Oh, interesting.
And then one of them, Gellen, who was the leader of the German team on the Eastern Front for intelligence, went back to Germany, set up a Gellen's network, and he ended up by being the chief of the German intelligence when the German intelligence was formed.
Oh, wow.
So yesterday's enemy was today's ally.
Interesting.
And so also with Russia and USA, or Soviet Union and USA, the war had barely ended and they had spies on each other's countries searching for secrets. Klaus Fuchs had gone to USA much before the war ended to find out the nuclear secrets.
Yeah.
So this game there's no borders or boundaries.
Right.
And
morality
has a different meaning.
Absolutely. I mean, it's a shade of gray that most people probably don't understand.
Yeah, because you're dealing with a Nazi, you got him exemption, you got him pardon from Nuremberg trials. And he's the man now operating for you.
Interesting.
Against the Russians.
Interesting.
So that's how we are.
Yeah, I mean, I think on the topic, before we segue into narratives, what you spoke about was information, disinformation, supplying of false or fake information versus real information. It goes back to the old cliche that the pen is mightier than the sword. I mean, we have seen it in the last... can you hear me?
I missed that.
I said it goes back to the cliche statement that the pen is mightier than the sword. For example, during the farmer protests in India, CNN and Washington Post still have it on their website that 250 million or 25 crore farmers were protesting in India. That would be almost 1 in 4 or 5 people on the streets, which is objectively false. It's fake. But the information, the narrative, the perception was bought.
That's how it works.
So the question is, how is this narrative formed by countries, organizations, and nations? And how do you create an ecosystem around it as it relates to information warfare that you were talking about?
You know, 6 media centers, six media houses hold 90% of the news that you see, hear, or listen to in the United States. It's owned by 6 companies.
Right.
5 billionaires own media in Britain.
Yep.
But we call it free press. Okay?
Right.
They are the ones. Now that's the media. Then you have organizations like the Council on Foreign Relations.
Yep.
This is one of the biggest, strongest, widely acclaimed think tank in the world, I would say. It has everybody who matters on that. They are called Wall Street's State Department.
Interesting.
Corporate sector, diplomats, generals, think tankers, ex-State Department, ex-Pentagon, they're all there. And the US has a system called, the revolving door. You're in this Department of State today, tomorrow you're in a think tank, day after you're with Council on Foreign Relations. You go back, after the government changes, you go back in Pentagon or wherever.
Right.
You have on the CFR major military producers, weapons producers, defense contractors, Lockheed Martin, Raytheon, they're all there. This is the ecosystem that is working. The media, all the major editors, from Economist to New York Times to Washington Post, they're all there. CNN, they're all there. It's a nice, happy, cozy club.
Got it.
And they have a continuity of policy. The basic thrust is the same. A Democrat, Republican, both are there. The decisions will be taken, or the recommendations will come regardless of who is in power.
Right.
It is not that the CFR will start thinking differently when there's a Democrat president or a Republican president. Then you have another group called the Triennial Commission. It's a Euro-American group. Again, a heavyweight group of Europeans and Americans. And then you have another group called the Bilderberg Group. They're all influence groups. Now the World Economic Forum has become another influence group.
Yes.
So all these people put together, and it's not as if they have a rule book and saying that this is what we will now. It's automatic. It's ingrained.
Right.
We will keep ourselves together. We will keep ourselves together to be richer, stronger, and the rest of the world will have to wait.
Interesting.
So this is how the ecosystem in America works. We don't have anything like that. In India, what we have is, if you have Balakot, the opposition is attacking you.
Yeah, for the Balakot mission, they called it fake.
And there's actual glee. You can see it. You can feel it if something goes wrong with the government internationally.
Right.
So that's where will you get a common thread to run a narrative forever? Superiority of the white race is perhaps the unwritten agenda. We don't talk about. But that is what it is. Sure, European civilization is the best in the world. It drew from the Roman and the Greeks. They don't talk about the Indian civilization, sometimes about the Chinese, sometimes about the Egyptians. But that is the civilization.
Right, right.
Europeans have fought 2 wars among themselves. They got us involved in both these wars because we were colonies. Now they're on to another European war and they want us to participate.
Correct. The Ukraine-Russia,
Yeah, why should we? It's your problem. You created it. Now you go and solve it. So that's how things are. But, there is no shortcut with this. You got to have your own voice.
Right.
You can't just leave it, if Washington Post publishes an article written by an Indian, which is nasty, which is quite often, or New York Times, they love it.
We love it all the time. Yeah.
We love it because we get published there and we get money out of it, surely. So we love that arrangement. But have you ever heard of an American coming to India during a presidential visit and writing an article against his own president to be published in an Indian newspaper?
Did that happen under Trump? I mean, I feel like the media was very, very hostile.
No,
but otherwise, no.
No, it didn't happen. It never happened. But Indian media was there to scuttle Modi's visit.
Yeah.
For sections of it. So that is the difference.
Right.
We've if you want to put a date to it, when will all this be put together? The bigger you become, the stronger you become. Half of it will be lost if you don't have your own voice.
Right. And something you mentioned in your book, which is The Ultimate Goal on Narratives, which I thought was fascinating, was that the US has actually not won a war since 1945, but the Pentagon,
it's still the strongest superpower in the world.
But the Pentagon and CIA have influenced 8,000.
Look at it. 6 months after running away from Afghanistan, they want to now meddle around in Ukraine, and nobody says, what's it, man? How are you going to handle it? And to think that Ukraine will be able to defeat Russia, a Russia which the Americans have been saying is the biggest threat to them with its ICBMs and its reach, is now going to be defeated by Ukraine? Come on.
Yeah. No, but you mentioned in your book that 8,000 different scripts and movies were influenced by the CIA and Pentagon in Hollywood to create that, perception about the US military. So do you think that's what's happening? Do you think that's what's happening with Ukraine and Russia right now? It seems like a theater.
You're running a free world, free newspapers, but you ban the Russians.
Yeah.
Okay. So there's a first sign that you don't want alternative opinion. Then all the newspapers carry a similar story. Difference in detail, thrust is the same. They're going to win. Putin is evil. Putin is a warmonger. He's a murderer, or whatever. Putin is a man who's got KGB background. Okay, he's from my trade, so I have a respect for him.
Right.
Any intelligence agent, officer will do a thorough SWOT analysis before going into it.
Right. Right.
I think Putin has done that. Putin knows that the Americans will not bring troops in. Putin knows that there will be sanctions. So he's got counter sanctions.
Yep.
I will not sell you oil unless you buy it in rubles.
In rubles. Yep.
Yeah. I will not let you export wheat from here. So you have going to have a currency crisis, you're going to have a trade crisis, you're going to have a food crisis. For what?
Right.
The Americans never stopped their Cold War.
With NATO expanding into...
NATO and these chaps kept saying, don't do it. Particularly Putin kept saying, don't do it, don't come to Ukraine. That's my red line. They didn't bother. So they've now gone in there. And I'm sure that the Americans have gone in without an exit policy. Putin has gone in with an exit policy. I don't know what that is, whether it is just occupying Donbass and the southeast area, keeping Crimea with them, and leave the rest with them. And do you know that in the Western Ukrainians were supporting Hitler march through Ukraine to attack Soviet Union. Eastern Ukrainians were not. And they still got those right-wingers there who are functioning as a regiment of the Ukrainian army.
Right.
Now, all this, what the Russians have been saying, this is not reported anywhere. Indian
have they lost the narrative battle? Has Russia lost the narrative battle, even if the reality on the ground is...
No, I would think that the Americans are about to lose the narrative battle. Because I can see already French papers, British papers, The Guardian, for instance, talking differently, saying that, well, Putin is got it. He knows what he's on about. We have missed it. New York Times had an article also. So they are worried. When you say that we must negotiate, the person who calls for negotiation is normally the chap who wants to get out of it. Putin is not asked for it.
Right.
And the ability of the Russians to take a beating, to fight on, resilience, is far greater than anybody can imagine.
Right, right.
You know, and Second World War, they fought the Germans with only bread and water for days.
Yep.
Sometimes not even that.
And they were in Afghanistan before as well. So they had a long stint.
Afghanistan also, the Americans provoked them. I mean, they were foolish to get into it, but they provoked them. Here, in Ukraine, he was warning them. Putin was warning them. I'm not a fan of Putin. I'm not saying that he's the best guy on earth. He's got his... He's doing it for Russia, so be it. That's what he's doing. He's been saying, don't do it, don't do it. And you'd be surprised the number of strategic think tank thinkers in the United States, including Kissinger, including George Kennan, said, don't do this. This is going to cause immense, a huge crisis. So what is it that has made them do this?
Right.
What is the push for this crisis? Did they need it? They didn't need this. Did they need the crisis? If they needed the crisis, what? For the economy? If it is the economy, which part of the economy?
Yeah.
The military-industrial economy? After all, this man didn't have any war to fight. Our friend Trump.
Yeah, he didn't start any new wars.
Bush Sr. had a war. Clinton had his Balkans. George Bush has 2 wars.
Obama
had Syria and Afghanistan. Trump had nothing. He did no new war. He made other mistakes, but he didn't start a new war. Now Biden has started one.
And there was a lull there was a COVID lull as well.
4 years of inactivity and 2 years of COVID.
Yep.
6 years of a slump in the military industrial sector is a huge. Is it for that? After how many? $40 billion are being spent, out of which how will it go for military?
54 billion. 54 billion.
Yeah, and how will it go for Ukraine's military, which means arms being bought from Lockheed Martin, Raytheon, Boeing, whatever.
Right.
That's where the money goes.
But so how has India got caught up in this? Like, Mr. Jaishankar was pulled up at World Economic Forum.
They want us to take a stand either for them against Russia. I think Jaishankar said the right thing. He said, Europeans think that all that concerns happens in Europe is the concern of the world. And all that happens in Asia is not their concern.
Right.
So we use your logic. It's your problem. Sort it out. We're not saying that what Putin has done right, but we're not going to say we're on your side. I'm on my side.
Yeah, because in '98, after the nuclear tests, Ukraine actually opposed us at the United Nations, and Russia didn't.
Yeah.
So
we have to remember that and use it when it suits us.
But do you think our narrative game, our ecosystem is strong enough to withstand this? Like China has a very strong ecosystem right now.
China, it's not easy to compare. It's not fair to compare us with China. Compare ourselves with China. It's an autocratic system where one man says whatever it has to be done has to be done. Here we have a lot of people making a lot of noises if you do something else. I think by and large, we've got it right.
Yep.
What is probably going to happen is that they're all losers in this. There's no winner. This totally unnecessary war, which the Americans have provoked, if they think that they're going to thereby defeat Russia. It's not going to happen. You can't defeat a country on which the sun takes 11 hours to cross.
Yeah.
You can't defeat that country. You can maybe subdue it for some time. But you cannot conquer it. You cannot conquer India. You can subdue India. You cannot conquer China. Not in this present day. So those days are gone. The fear in the West, I think, is that there are too many new powers coming in. The Americans are losing ground. You read my book, didn't you? Did you also? You might remember what Harold Pointer had said about America when in his Nobel.
Yes.
Getting the Nobel Award, he made a speech. It's an absolutely accurate account of what is the. May I read it for the audience, or
please do.
Let me just, because I love that piece.
Yeah, it's a great piece.
And also what another favorite author of mine, Andrew Basewich, said. So I said, no wonder British playwright Harold Pointer, in his acceptance speech for the Nobel Prize for Literature in December 2005 said, he says, everyone knows what happened in the Soviet Union and throughout Eastern Europe during the post-war period. The systematic brutality, the widespread atrocities, the ruthless suppression of independent thought. All this has been fully documented and verified. But my contention here is that the US crimes in the same period have only been superficially recorded, let alone documented, let alone acknowledged, let alone recognized as crimes at all. Then he adds, but you wouldn't know it. It never happened. Nothing ever happened. Even while it was happening, it wasn't happening. It didn't matter. It was of no interest. The crimes of the United States have been systematic, constant, vicious, remorseless, but very few people have talked about them. You have to hand it to America. It has exercised a quite cynical manipulation of power worldwide, while masquerading as a force for universal good. It's a brilliant, even witty, highly successful act of hypnosis. That is narratives.
Wow.
You build a narrative, you can do what you like.
So what is it going to take for India to build? Like before we go into Q&A, what does India need to do to tell its story? Like people living in India know fact from fiction to a certain angle. How do we tell our story to the world? What is stopping us from doing that?
You'll have to wait for my next book. But anyway, I'll give you a little secret. If you want to stand up and be counted, if you want to say things that matter, that people listen to, first you must know who you are, who you were, who you want to be. Then you have to get the historical perspective of the last 2,000 years right. We haven't got that right. We don't know our history.
Yep, we don't.
None of us know. I particularly, in your time, probably it has changed, but in my time, there was no history. I didn't have history as a subject at school, Baba.
Really?
There was no subject as history. It was geography.
Cool.
So that's 1950 years. Sabhi independent hui the, so we can't. History didn't have history. What our history was. So you have to know your history. It doesn't mean that you hold the current generation responsible for the history of the past. That's awful. But you must know what happened. Then we must understand how our first 50 years of independence went. What did we do with it? 50, 70, 80, whatever you want to say. What did we do with it? In the meanwhile, what has been happening in the rest of the world?
Yep.
USA, China, Russia, Islam, neighborhood. What has been happening? Right. Then you sit down and make your narrative. What do you want to be? How will you do it? You have, I said in my book, you have to tell your story first.
Right.
Tell it loudly. Tell it again and again. What we do is when a newspaper article in New York Times appears, we wail and shout and cry.
Yeah.
How many journalists have done a story on the shootings that go on in the United States year after year after year when they kill innocents, they don't change their laws?
Yep.
What is it that is happening in the United States? When a man can go into a supermarket, buy a chewing gum and an AR-15 at the same time and come out and shoot. What about their race relations? What about how they deal with the poor? What about their health systems? And they link it between health, pharma, insurance. Kaun karta hai sab? So you have to give a counter narrative there. You have to have your own narrative and you have to have a counter narrative. Then they will take notice of you. You know what happened in this recently when the British Prime Minister went for the Queen's, I think it was the armistice or whatever. Yeah. He walked in with his wife and there were shouts of what's his name? Forget his name.
Boris Johnson?
Johnson. Anti-Johnson boos. See how insignificant he is. Boos about him. That was shown on the BBC. 2 minutes later, they changed the tape. All boos cut out.
Oh, wow. Interesting.
Huh? When Charar-e-Sharif happened, when the Mustagul had burnt Charar-e-Sharif down, BBC showed tanks being moved into southern Kashmir.
Right.
Actually, that was a picture from the Balkan Wars. And they showed it here. But the damage had been done. You can keep on making noises and saying, hey, this is galat, galat, galat. So what? Sorry, we made a mistake. What happened again? But message is gone. So you have to be quick, you have to be smart, you have to know your things, you have to anticipate. And you've got to have an ecosystem like the Americans have.
Right.
Where it is not party politics. It's not politics of power that determine it. It's politics of greatness that determine it.
Right.
Not next Prime Minister kaun banega.
That shouldn't matter as much as your.
It shouldn't matter. If your country first comes, if your country comes first. And it's not my country comes first if, when, or why. You know, the famous speech by Kennedy in the 1960 elections, Nixon ke saath.
Yeah.
He said, we have to be first, not if, not when, not but first.
But first.
So that was stirring words. I remember I was listening to that debate as a would-be college boy. It mattered. It sounded very good. But now they've carried it to the other extremes. Now become America first, no matter what. And everything else has been thrown in. They haven't won a war, but the image of the strongest navy on earth
Yep.
Yes. So आप narrative बनाएंगे with a little bit of truth in it, it'll stay. But it has to be something that is going to be lasting. Not
right.
5-year narrative nahi chalega. It has to be narrative about India, not a party.
And hopefully, slowly, we are marching towards that. And
as you become stronger, as you become more effective, as you have more money to spend on things like this, then you learn to do it. And it's not necessary that it has to be political. Arts, theater, literature, all that, even sports matter.
Sure.
Look at the way our image has gone up because we got badminton players and we got wrestlers and we got javelin throwers who are doing much better than it was in our time. We never had anything except the continental. So, and all the B-town boys are doing so well in cricket.
Yep.
There is a new India emerging, and I think with youngsters like the one I'm talking to, that's the future.
Well, we hope to live up to your future. And given that you have a hard stop at 8 o'clock, I think we'll go into the Q&A to save time. Anup, you can come on and just read the questions yourself, and Vikram ji can address them.
Thank you so much again for all your insightful thoughts right now. I just to sort of pivot from what you're saying about soft power that we're building from, in sports, in literature and art. We had a couple of questions, given that there's a lot of technologists at Carnegie Mellon and on this talk as well. I think Krishnan Srinivasan also had a question. He wanted to know what technology areas and sectors does India need to invest in and research and development to be ahead in future wars. And his sort of second question to that is, how do you develop habits and traits, I guess, of as you described, of an intelligence agent spy slash. But I think the first question about,
Yeah, sorry. The first question is a tricky one. I belong to a generation where this didn't exist.
Yep.
So we have difficulty. I can only say we need to have the most suitable in technology for us, not necessarily the latest or the best, because our demands are not of that kind. We're not a superpower that needs to know everything what's going on in the world. It's quite enough if we are able to cover our neighborhood satisfactorily for the time being. So we should have technology which is suitable for our security needs for the next maybe 20 years, 30 years. Then you can go into an upgrade later. So that is where, as far as the technology aspect is concerned. And I still fear that over-reliance on technology will not help the intelligence agencies in the long run. The human element will always be of paramount importance. Anyone who neglects that is going to suffer. They will suffer the nuances. Artificial intelligence can knock off a man from Twitter for wrong reasons, but it's not the same thing as an intelligence agency telling you that there is a likelihood of a war.
Right.
That is the difference. I'm sorry, in my impassioned answer for the first one, I lost the second one.
I think there's another question to a similar tone by Jevika Shetty. She, again, thanks you for your interesting insights. And she says, based on your professional personal experience, what would be the top 3 qualities an intelligence professional should possess to keep up with the work challenges of these times?
There's one thing that is given is integrity. You're going to deal with secrets. You're going to deal with money, which is unaccounted for, which government or the people of India have given you on trust. So you have to have integrity of financial integrity and intellectual integrity. Then perseverance. That is, never give up. And the third is to be able to say things clearly and accurately to your bosses. Because what you have interpreted and what you're going to tell your boss, he's probably not going to look into the details of the report. If he has the time, he may. Otherwise, if he trusts you, he will rely on that. So be precise and accurate, even if it is unwelcome news, that should be given. So these are the important.
Yeah, those are three important qualities. I hope
when you're leading an organization, a lot of people come and say yes, yes, yes to you.
Okay.
You have to have the courage and the ability to listen to the man who's saying no. Why is he saying no?
Absolutely.
That is my priority.
Absolutely. So sort of segueing to sort of a different question. RS here has a question regarding the Russian invasion. Does it set a template for China's aggression with its neighbors?
Well, I'd like to say yes, but I don't think that is really going to happen. The Chinese aggression against its neighbors is going to happen on its own. The China-India factor was there even before Ukraine. So that has not changed. And China is not America and we are not Ukraine. So it is not as if the Chinese will get up tomorrow and march across the Himalayas. No, that's not going to happen. We are capable of dealing with that. It might be bloody or whatever, but that is not what will encourage them. They are going to wait and see how this pans out. They are not interested in fighting wars. I don't think they're even interested in fighting Taiwan. Yeah. They let it happen on its own. Because if they fight and if they get a bloody nose and if they don't succeed, then their position as the next superpower is gone, given America's superweight in building narratives. So
right.
I wouldn't panic and say they're going to now do this, that, and that. They might get more aggressive in Myanmar. They might become more. That is something we have to watch. Or in Sri Lanka. Pakistan, of course, is their puppet, so they'll toss it around. And I would think that's how it is going to play out. Nepal. But I also think that our neighboring countries are not just sitting idle. They're also watching how the game is being played out.
Right.
I wouldn't expect them to think that, chalo, let's go and join the Chinese camp now. That won't happen. At the end of the day, the Sri Lankans have to probably more dependent on India than they are on China for daily living. So right. Also Nepal. So right. It's not so cut and dried.
Absolutely. And do you think China likes to fight a war? Sorry, go ahead. I said, do you think China fights the war without bullets? And was COVID one of them?
Well, I thought a lot about it. I've collected a lot of material on this. Whether this was deliberate or an accident, was it a pure scientific experiment that went wrong, or were they actually doing biowarfare? and the role of the Americans in this, the money that they spent on the war on laboratories. There's a lot of material coming out contradictory to each other. Some say no. But then if you look at who has ultimately gained from this, if there's a crime, what is the motive? Who gained? Who has gained from this financially, money-wise? Pfizer, Moderna.
Yeah.
I'm not saying they did it, but they gained.
They gained, yeah.
So, and also remember, in 1974, they had a document prepared, I think it's there in my book, where they said how to control the population, how to depopulate.
Yep. Yep.
And even now they're saying, people like, they've been saying that 2 billion is about what the earth can sustain. 8 is way too much. So my mind cannot accept that this could be a policy. It's just too bizarre.
Right.
So,
yeah.
Initially there were very many doubters of the COVID pandemic anyway. There were reports I saw, American, doctors saying that they're being offered money to say that any case that comes to them is a COVID case.
Yep.
That every death should be recorded as a COVID death. I've seen it on TV. And other reporters, reports and investigations, people being locked up because of they've done this. God knows.
Makes sense. Yeah, we're looking forward to your book that's coming out soon. And Anup, I think. Sorry, go ahead.
I said my bit. Okay, your turn.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
We've reached 8 o'clock. I think we've reached a hard stop. I think we'll hand it over to Aashay and Rekha to close out today's interview.
Go ahead, Rekha. You can come for the closing comments.
Thank you so much. I think it was really interesting and thought-provoking. I think you've given us a lot of food for thought, a lot of different things touched upon, and I really want to thank you for taking time out. And I know we have been really, trying to get you on here. So I really also thank Aashay for his perseverance that we have you here, today. And thank you also to Aashay and Anup for hosting the session. Thank you to our wonderful audience for being here.
Thank you, Vikramji. We thoroughly enjoyed it. Hope you did too. And I'm already getting messages for a round 2. So whenever,
I think 1 hour was too less. 1 hour was just too less. We needed.
I'm always ready to talk to youngsters, and whenever you feel like, we can do another one later.
Awesome. So hopefully
a few months from now, otherwise it becomes done. They'll think that it roz aa jata hai.
Roz bhi aoge, people will still attend. So, but we will definitely look for a round 2. Hopefully, once your book is also more progress, so we'll have new things to discuss as well. And thank you for your time, Vikramji. Any closing thoughts from you?
No, I think you youngsters. First of all, thank you very much for having me here. I enjoyed myself, and you let me speak non-stop, which is unusual. These days, when you go to TV programs, you're interrupted every 2 minutes, but this was wonderful. That's what I like. Even if I stray here and there, it doesn't matter. But I enjoyed it, and thank you. And I'm willing to come back again a couple of months from now.
Awesome. That's
So
wonderful.
thank you. You youngsters should, it's your country. And we brought it up to here, left it in the kind of mess that it is. Now it's for you guys to build it. Because I see a lot more confidence in the youngster of India of today than the youngster of my time.
Right.
There is that self-confidence, which is very gratifying. So best of luck, whatever you're doing in all your endeavors.
Thank you.
Keep healthy, stay strong.
Thank you, Vikramji. Thank you so much.
Bye.
Have a nice. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.